Growing up in the 90s was a blast. Not only we had the chance to witness the full transition from analog to digital world, the emergence of anime and as a cultural phenomenon, or the rise of the nerds which transcended from outcasts to celebrities, among other things. But we've also seen some serious shit back then, when filmmakers and artists pushed the boundaries of what they could shock their viewers with and came up with some scenes that scarred us for life. So, these are my 11 traumatizing scenes from childhood shows and other media. As in shows I watched in my youth and not specifically intended for children, because there are some entries here that weren't that. Also, those are my subjective picks which impacted my imagination and mental well-being for years, and for you they may vary. But who knows, maybe there's one here that left an emotional scar in you too. Okay, here we go. Number 11. Artax, The Never-Ending Story. Let's start strong. If you haven't seen the 1984 Wolfgang Petersen's classic The Never-Ending Story, based on a book by Michael Ende, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's great. But watch my video to the end first, thanks. And there is one scene in particular that had such an emotional impact for any viewer, child or adult, that it stays with you for a long time. In search for the cure for the Fantasia childlike empress's mysterious illness, Atreyu and his trusty steed Artax find themselves in the swamp of sadness. Anyone who loses hope and gives into despair will immediately drown, and despite Atreyu's efforts and determination, Artax fails to keep his spirit up and begins to sink. In the book, from which the movie greatly differs, and it's a whole another story in its own right, so I highly recommend reading it, Artax asks Atreyu, yes, the horse talks, to walk away and not watch him drowning as he lost all hope and accepted his fate, which Atreyu reluctantly does. But in the movie we are submitted to a truly heartbreaking scene, thanks to Noah Hathaway's brilliant performance, which even brought the director himself to tears. I feel the weight of this scene to this day and feel sorry for every horse I see. Watch the movie and see for yourself. Ah yes, and there's also Gmork. Number 10. Tetsuo's transformation, Akira. Akira is a masterpiece of traditional animation, there's no question. Made in 1988 and directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, the author of the manga, this movie was the proof that anime is more than just cartoons for kids. Gritty and brutal story about a motorcycle gang member Tetsuo dealing with supernatural powers, and Kaneda, his friend who tries to save him. In the climax of the movie, Tetsuo's power is getting out of control, resulting in a grotesque transformation. Unwillingly, he crushes his friend Kaori in the process. Painstakingly animated by hand, this scene is as beautiful as it is horrifying, which is a far cry from some CGI and even AI-generated imagery we see nowadays. Blech. True testament to the craft. Number 9. Gandahar. The Machine Man vs. Gandahar was the first in the series of books written by Jean-Pierre Atrevon, which was adapted for 1988 movie Gandahar. This French animation, directed by René Laloux, tells a story of a peaceful land invaded by the mysterious Man of Metal, which suddenly attacks the community, abducting its people to a fate unknown. In response, the Council of Women dispatches a young warrior, Sylvain, to investigate who or what sent the Man of Metal and why. The most memorable things about this movie are the unique animation style, music written by Gabriel Yared, and most importantly, the sound of the Man of Metal marching and breathing to the haunting rhythm of impending doom. I truly recommend watching this movie, though it's not for everyone, especially children, because some scenes are like, well, strongly suggestive. I first watched it when I was about 7 and oh boy, I learned some things. Fun fact, there was an American release of this movie retitled Light Years, which was slightly edited and with replaced music, which in my opinion is inferior comparing to the original orchestral score. Number 8. Chestbuster scene, Alien. Here's a classic. I guess everyone had already seen the 1980s Ridley Scott's masterpiece Alien. One of the most iconic scenes is the birth of the titular monster, famously shot with the cast unaware of how it will look, so the reactions you see in the movie are genuine. Seeing it for the first time then, this image really stuck with our immature brains, although in contrast to some of the current gore scene in movies, this one may be somewhat mild in comparison, but still, don't watch while eating. Number 7. Season finale, Mortal Kombat Conquest. Growing up in the 90s, Mortal Kombat was inescapable. A small team of 4 people in Midway Games developed a game which very little had faith in, but turned out to be a global phenomenon and started a franchise lasting to this day. By the time the Mortal Kombat Conquest series was released, there were 3 games and a motion picture already out, so everyone was hungry for more. Unfortunately, the show wasn't a hit everyone was counting on. Slow-paced drama story set 500 years before the tournament scene in the first game, and bland, uninspired characters led to mixed reception, resulting in cancelling the show after 22 episodes. But as it often is, the plug was pulled right when it started to get interesting. In the season finale, all main characters are defeated and presumably dead. I don't know why this scene stuck with me all those years, since the entire show is pretty forgettable, but the way Khan says, "A daughter," good, gives me the chills. Good thing that the games were still good, right? Right? Number 6. Cobra Commander Transformation, G.I. Joe the movie. G.I. Joe the movie was pretty hilarious, with the ridiculous battle cry in the forefront. But there was one scene that genuinely gave me the heebie-jeebs. After another failure, Cobra Commander is brought before Golobulus, what a name, for a trial, and as punishment exposed to a mutative spore which is meant to be a new bioweapon against the humanity. As a result, the commander is gruesomely transformed into an actual snake.
I was a man. Yes. Oh, yes. I was a man.
It seems fairly tame now, but then I almost felt sorry for the bastard, and it remained one of the 2 memorable things in this flick. The other being, of course, Number 5. Judgment Day, Terminator 2. This scene from a brilliant sequel to an even more brilliant original is still one of the most graphic depiction of nuclear apocalypse that was ever put to film. Sarah Connor, the mother of a prophesied savior of humanity, young John Connor, finds herself in a park watching children at play. On the playground, she sees her younger waitress self she once was with John, unaware of their fate. She starts to scream and shake the fence which separates her from them, but no one hears her warnings, and a moment later the world explodes in a bright flash of horror as the Judgment Day falls upon humanity. The scorching heat instantly turns everyone into ash. Devastating shockwave destroys everything on its path as if it was made from paper, and Sarah is experiencing the full extent of pain and despair as the blast reaches her and sheds her body off of her bones. I have yet to see more gruesome scene depicting a nuclear holocaust that might happen if some hot-headed leader decides to finally push the button. Needless to say, nuclear weapons are a very real threat to mankind, and I am wholeheartedly in favor of abolishing them altogether. Oh, and there's also a thing about the AI uprising, but that's a whole different bag of monkeys. Number 4. The entirety of Twin Peaks. When Twin Peaks aired, I was a bit too young to follow the plot and understand what's going on, but I do vividly remember the Angelo Badalamenti's music in the opening sequence, which meant that this weird show my parents watch is starting, so I better get my Legos and start playing to distance myself from the lifelong fear of owls and pine trees I'm about to get from this show. Back then I was kinda scared to watch it, mostly because of the haunting atmosphere of the show and of course the iconic Lynchian visuals, with Bob being the scariest of them. Naturally, I adore the series now when I can actually appreciate all the nuances, art style, story, and everything inherently Lynch, but back then I had the opening song played as a soundtrack to my nightmares. Number 3. The Deaths of Sailor Senshi, Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was one of my first introductions to the wider anime genre, which was just starting to be seen as something more than just cartoons for small children. Unlike them, anime didn't stray from difficult topics such as complex human relations, politics, and even death. In comparison, up to mid-90s, freshly started Cartoon Network presented mostly Hanna-Barbera cartoons before transitioning to the Tartakovsky's era of shows, such as Dexter's Lab, Cow and Chicken, etc. But all of them meant to be lighthearted, often filled with toilet humor and just plain out silly. Enter Sailor Moon with a different approach of telling a bigger story. Although guilty of the Monster of the Week trope, it was still something else. The animation was great, the story progressed slowly but steadily, and I was often rushing from school to watch the next episode. I also recorded almost all of them and have them stored on VHS tapes somewhere. We were also lucky enough to have the original Japanese version, although with a voiceover, but still, nothing beats Japanese seiyuu. I love this language. Unfortunately, the executives in Poland, my native country, deemed the episodes 45 and 46 of the first season to be too gruesome for young viewers and decided to skip them entirely. So we were left with an unresolved final battle with Queen Beryl and somewhat confusing start of the R season. Fortunately, we had the idea of what actually happened in those lost episodes thanks to some thoughtful guys in the manga room section of a popular gaming magazine Secret Service, where we were informed that all Sailor Senshi die in the penultimate episode. Coincidentally, a German TV station, I guess RTL, was also airing Sailor Moon and wasn't as restrictive as our home broadcaster, so there was still a chance of seeing the episodes, although with German dub, which was problematic but didn't stop anyone from viewing. And so I was able to see with my own eyes the sacrifice of the Senshi in the 45th episode, and I was deeply moved by it, not because of the violence or whatever, but rather the emotional presentation of Senshi fighting while Usagi witnesses the loss of all of her friends. Similar scene happened in episode 196 of the Sailor Stars season, and that was even more heartbreaking and impactful. Every time I watch it, my stone heart melts a bit and something wet is coming to my eyes. Only in anime, man. Number 2. Aerith, Final Fantasy VII. Every single being on this planet probably played this game already, but in case you're that one person living under a rock for the past 30 years, spoiler alert, consider yourself warned. So you randomly meet this flower girl on the street, buy a flower from her for a mere 1 gil, and go on your merry way until a few hours later you fall straight into a patch of grass randomly growing inside the church, greeted by that same girl. If this isn't destiny, I don't know what is. So you have some adventures together, which becomes a struggle on a much bigger scale, you get to know the girl more, hang out in the Gold Saucer farmland, and may or may not end up overviewing a fireworks display with a romantic tension brewing in the air. And then the shit hits the fan. The girl disappears, leaving you with an enigmatic message about forests and ancient cities and such, and when you eventually find her, every 90s kid knows this story. We were all there. We all couldn't do anything to stop what was about to happen. We all watched in shock the aftermath of what just transpired, and we all had to spend years in therapy trying to get rid of the separation anxiety disorder. Just me? Oh, okay. But still, this scene single-handedly changed the do's and don'ts of the video games and movie storytelling. All bets were off. You can't take anything for granted. You still can lose even if you think you're invincible. Everything is a lie! As of now, I haven't played the remakes yet, and I don't know if the outcome is the same or not. Don't spoil it for me, please. But in 1997 it was something else, and it still resonates with people who love this game, myself included. Press F to pay respects. Bonus entry. Shania's Choice. Torgal, Beyond the Shadows. Not from a show, rather from a comic book, but still added a little something to the growing list of my childhood traumas. Beyond the Shadows is the 5th book in the Torgal series, written by John Van Ham and illustrated by Grzegorz Rosiński. Main character, Torgal, in an attempt to save the life of his beloved Aricia, ventures to the Shadowlands accompanied by Shania, a village girl who is in love with him. They end up in Death's Domain, where Torgal is given a choice. In order to save Aricia's life, he has to end a life of another. He can't bring himself to kill an innocent stranger, so Shania does that for him. Later, when they're on their way out, Shania becomes trapped and realizes that the life she ended was her own. Confessing her love one last time, she turns into a small butterfly and is trapped in the Shadowlands forever, leaving Torgal alone. This was a very impactful scene, and Shania, because of her actions that led them to this result in the first place, became a very tragic character. I strongly recommend reading the saga and experience it yourself. Little warning though, latest books differ somewhat from the original feel and style, mainly because of the original creator's departure from the franchise, which some say made the series worse, but still worth checking out. Number 1. Chase's Sacrifice, Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. Alright, most of you probably never even heard of this gem of a show, but if you do, you have my sympathies. Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future was a 1987 short-lived series depicting adventures of Jonathan Power and his band of resistance fighters in the battle against the Bio-Dread Empire, led by ruthless Lord Dread and his and Powers' father's creation, the AI named Overmind. The series lasted for 22 episodes and was unfortunately cancelled due to being too violent for children, which the series was initially marketed to by advertising action figures and the interactive gun. The idea behind it was that you could shoot the flashing parts of the machines throughout the show and earn points. But in reality, the creators aimed for a more adult audience, hoping that by watching the show with their kids, parents will also get into it. Captain Power was a victim of being ahead of its time, although it was based on the themes introduced earlier by the first Terminator movie, with the story set in post-human machine war, in which the machines won and whatever left of the mankind fights for survival. Cancellation of the show resulted in one of the biggest cliffhangers back then, much as The Empire Strikes Back when the heroes lost everything they fought for, and more. Okay, here it comes. In the final episode, the Bio-Dread army led by Blaster, yes, that's his name, invades the secret power base in order to ambush them on Christmas Day with their pants down. However, at the time of the attack, majority of the team is away on a patrol, leaving the only female in the group, Jennifer Pilot Chase, in the base alone. When she discovers that enemy forces are infiltrating the base, she packs some essential equipment and vital components of their own AI advisor, Mentor, activates the self-destruct sequence and attempts to escape. However, Blaster eventually gets to the command station and destroys it, aborting the sequence in process. So Chase, in her last-ditch effort, sends the equipment on a hoverbike to rendezvous with the rest of the group, after which she returns to the command station to activate the self-destruct manually. She's attacked by Blaster but managed to narrowly evade him and get to the console to contact the group one last time.
Jennifer, hold on. Hold on, we're gonna come.
No. Stay clear. The auto-destruct is no good. I have to blow the power source. It's the only way.
We're on our way to get you right now. There's another way to do it.
It's too late. All broken up inside. Stay clear. I'm sorry we never got to finish our talk.
Jennifer, don't.
I love you, John. So much. Goodbye. You think of me sometimes. Goodbye.
I was speechless when I saw this. Not only Chase had the most interesting backstory of them all, not only her final words to Jonathan were heartbreaking, not only her absence made the show a potential sausage fest, she was also my first childhood crush, so seeing her heroic sacrifice just to never be seen again was devastating. Possibly one of the most tragic deaths I've seen in any media, just because of the emotional weight it carried and the feelings she never had the chance to properly express. Goodbye, my love.
Goodbye.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Phew, so that was my 11 plus traumatizing scenes from childhood shows and other media. Do you have your own? Write them down in the comments, I'll be happy to know what lingers in your memories. And yes, this video is different from what I was doing so far, and sure enough I will do more crafting in the future. Also, let me know if this type of content is something you'd like to watch from time to time. It was fun writing it, and I'll gladly make some more if you'd be interested. That said, have a nice coffee, say someone that you love them, and see you around later. Bye!